Welcome to Pet Business Disruptors. I'm Clayton. I'm here today with Sam Wallace, who is the owner of the Pet Quarter and also known for his his work on his YouTube channel, where he talks about pet nutrition and dog food and different bits and pieces. And I'm really excited to get Sam here because he's also the funniest man on LinkedIn for me, and like one of my favorite LinkedIn characters. So yeah, welcome and thanks for coming down, Sam.
No, thank you so much. Thank you.
No, it's great to get you down. I mean, you're definitely like one of the most interesting people on LinkedIn.
That's what happens when you work for yourself. You can actually say whatever you want, and that's something that's lacking, I think, in LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of I think LinkedIn's one of them places where there's a lot of people who are kind of pretending to toe certain lines. I don't think I do it too much. I think
You don't. That's why we get along.
I don't think I'm as bad as I could be. I think like if you know me personally, I think like I'm actually probably a lot worse in person than I am on LinkedIn, but I still can't help myself, to be honest. I still don't mind being a little bit controversial.
Why not?
So Sam, tell us, how did you get into the industry in the first place?
So I am a failed entrepreneur, basically. I left my corporate job. I used to work in finance, M&A, all that sort of stuff, and started different companies. They all failed, and this one stuck, and here I am. 5 years later. So yeah, I'm really excited. I love dogs. I love cats. And that's what drives me, really. That's what drives the Pet Quarter and how we do things, our ethos and everything.
And you got two shops, right? One in Middlesbrough, one in Yarm.
Yeah, one in Yarm, one in Stokesley. So okay. We also do nationwide delivery, and we have the YouTube channel and stuff like that. So yeah, it's really good.
It's funny, I was actually in Middlesbrough last year, and I was told Yarm is like the Beverly Hills of Middlesbrough.
It is. That's why the shop is there. One of the shops is there.
Well, I got to be honest, I did go there, and I was particularly unimpressed by how Beverly Hillsy it was, to be honest.
Well, you should come by. Yeah.
So obviously, look, you're an independent store. You got independent stores. My background is obviously I was a wholesaler to independent stores for more than 20 years. I'm a big supporter of the independent industry. And I think what I have seen over the last few years is the move from private equity into the space, but also SEIS funds, EIS funds, developing lots of different pet-related products and brands, etc., which aren't economically sensible. Yeah. And arguably won't last long term. And it's funny, I was talking to Caroline earlier, we were talking about things like these subscription models, especially on things like fresh cooked food. And I really like fresh cooked food. As you know, I had Harry from Tugs on because I really like his food. I think it's a great food. I really dislike the subscription model because I believe that pet food should be sold in pet shops and that people should go in and be able to buy that on a regular basis. But there's the current climate we're living in. It's very anti-independent trader.
Yes, it is. I mean, and let's talk about how to make money in the pet food industry, right? So if there's any private equity people pouring money into it, what makes a good company and what makes a bad company? As you rightly say, I see so many dumb people making dumb investments in the pet food industry. I see so many companies saying that they're revolutionizing the pet food industry, yet they sell the same product. They all sell the same product. And it doesn't really matter whether we're talking about like raw feeding companies or fresh companies or kibble companies. They all tend to have the same product, yet they all revolutionize in the pet food industry. The reality sometimes is that a lot of these businesses have no moat. They have no differentiation. Maybe Tugs does because they do some insect stuff,
it's
right?
a meat and insect product, which I think I'm big insect advocate in pet food because the lauric acid content, the medium chain fatty acids, I think it's highly beneficial to certain dogs. And I have one dog that I feed Tugs on because I've tried her on raw. She got sort of chubby and spotty on raw, and tried her on kibble. And for whatever reason, like Tugs and other. So I have a friend as well who had a dog food company before, which was a kibble one. But again, for whatever reason, his worked really well. Other ones I've used haven't, but for whatever reason, that particular protein works really well on that.
Yeah.
But that is a real differentiation, whereas the others, a lot of them seem to be quite...
Like a lot of these D2C dog food delivery services are essentially the same product. They're very capital intensive. They have no switching costs. They have no operating leverage. If you think of like Amazon or Nvidia or whatever, they do have a mode. They do have switching costs. They have operating leverage. There's no uniqueness about these dog food companies. They give away so much free dog food that is ridiculous. All the discounts, you have 65% off onboarding discounts. I mean, I would be the Elon Musk if I had that sort of money behind me. You know what I mean? If I'm selling £10 notes for a fiver, it's ridiculous. You know? So they have no nonsensical economics. Let me draw your attention to HelloFresh, for example, right? They turn over $7.5 billion. They have a net working capital of minus $400,000 and a $2,400 in positive free cash flow. And that's from 2023 numbers. And that's from a 7.5 billion turnover company. So none of these companies are making money. And they are essentially destroying independent companies and they're destroying family businesses here in the UK. So that is something I really don't agree with.
But it's all driven by Nom Nom, like in my opinion. So Nom Nom are a subscription model from the US, which were acquired by Mars for $1 billion. And it just seems to me like loads of companies have sprung up with huge amounts of investment backing, private equity backing, and they're just going for this same Nom Nom sort of carbon cutout. But not like, I have issues with this for two reasons. Number one, I think the cost per acquisition now is so high, it's crazy. I think like if you're lucky, it's costing you £70 to £100 a customer. But I know these subscription models are paying way more than that. And it's all justified on this lifetime value proposition where, oh yeah, but we'll sell it to the dog and they'll buy it for the next 10 years or something, which is obviously nonsense. But yeah, it's the difference is as well is that the UK isn't the US. Like the US has lots and lots of areas which are massively underserved with pet retail. So, if you live in, let's say, Oregon, in a small town, there may not be a pet store, and your nearest Petco might be, a 30-40 minute drive away. That makes a subscription attractive. But if you live in Middlesbrough, you've probably got half a dozen pet shops around you, and like there might be a couple of corporates, a few independents.
It's only one worthy one though in Middlesbrough.
Well, I mean, I've heard I've heard there's this crazy guy who owns a couple up there, but. But you know what I mean? It's like
100%.
The subscription model is just different. Like it's just a completely different model.
And blitzscaling doesn't really work, which is what the Netflix model, you can't just do it with dog food. It's very capital intensive. You have to pour a lot of money into the thing and you don't get anything coming up the other end. So that's not the right model. And I've been saying for a while that a lot of these companies or some of these companies are definitely going bankrupt.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
For sure.
That's,
If they're lucky, like 75% will go bankrupt. If they're lucky, if it works at all. Because, realistically, there's so many in the market. And I could list off half a dozen without even thinking about it. Yeah. Like Butternut Box, Different Dog, Pure, Tug. I could list, there's loads out there. And they're all fighting over the same market, the same CPAs. And how do you actually then turn that into a viable long-term economic business? I mean, I think like when I was talking to Harry, like I said, if I Google Tugs, I'll get, Butternut Box, Different Dog and Pure Pet all in the sponsored ad sessions before I even get to their Tugs' website.
Yep. And
so how is that economic? Because they're paying a fortune.
It isn't. The economics do not work. They don't work.
Yeah. So what? And look, I think the problem is I do like the fresh food proposition, but I think Butternut Box has now gone into Pets at Home, but on an exclusive basis. But like how do you see this sort of manifesting, and what do these companies need to do in your opinion?
I just think they need to create products that are truly different. The product has to be unique. You can't just say that your product is different. That doesn't make your product any different. If you say I'm disrupting the pet food industry, you have to actually disrupt the pet food industry. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter what you say. So I'll give you like 2 or 3 examples. For example, here in the UK, JR, Fourth Glade, and Kong.
Yeah.
They have unique brands, and those unique brands are there for a reason. You've got really good products, and I'm not affiliated with any of those.
Yeah.
Like we do stock them and what have you, but yeah, like the product needs to be different, and you need to market it differently. Otherwise, then you aren't different. I'm really sorry.
It's interesting actually, because Fourth Glade, I was a big seller of Fourth Glade, and Fourth Glade only became big for me because Nature shot itself in the foot so badly. So Nature used to be in the same format as Fourth Glade, and then they basically, we were massive sellers of Nature Diet, and then they got rid of their wholesaler networks when they went into the Tetra packs. So that's been like a massive bang for Fourth Glade. And JR, I think what JR did was they just went higher end with the natural treats range. They kind of took what was out there, which people were doing, and they just sort of put like a much more positive spin on it and made it more accessible, but also high end. But I do think, I might get shot for saying this, but I think JR have kind of peaked a little bit, because I think like the natural treat sector has become so overblown with companies and so
commoditized.
I think it's very hard actually to do anything in that space now, to be honest.
But if you look at any of those companies, any of those successful companies within this industry, they constantly rotate products and innovate with new products. It's very akin, in my opinion, to the beauty industry. So if you go into a Boots or whatever the case might be, you've got different products all the time. L'Oreal, Estée Lauder, MAC, whatever the case might be. And there's always new things. With these companies, they're all the same product. It's all the same thing. They're all the same recipe. Whether you call it a chicken crock-pot or chicken stew, it's the same thing. It's the same 60-40, 80-20. And that goes for like raw feeding companies as well. You're selling the same product.
Yeah.
So that's,
So what do they need to do differently, do you think?
They just need to constantly innovate, in my opinion, and come up with products that people and dogs will love. The thing about the pet food industry is that you have 2 customers. You have us, and then you have the dogs. And what you want and what the dog wants sometimes is different, right? But you do have to convince the 2 customers, essentially. So let's take JR, for example, 100% meat sticks. That's a very good sell. It's a really good product. Objectively, that's a really good product. And dogs love it. Yeah. So do more of that. Fourth Glade, the trays, when they came out, for example, that was a true innovation. Yeah. And then everyone sort of copied it. But you have to come up with new products and new things that are actually good for the dogs. Don't put sugar in the pet food. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, Fourth Glade as well. I mean, but that's the other thing, is that the whole conceptuality around Fourth Glade, I mean, that's, I remember Fourth Glade when they were just a frozen meat company.
Yeah.
And like, that's, we're going back like 25, 30 years when they first started doing the menu. And although they reformulated it because they were almost, as far as I'm aware, like they had like serious money issues, and then it was reformulated when they had the money brought in and that sort of stuff. I still think that like, they've held back on actually like really innovating since then, and that as a result, I think their market share might be dwindling. I could be right or wrong about that.
When the screws tighten,
and they went into the supermarkets as well, which is like
which annihilates all independent pet shops, by the way. So if you have a brand and you go into Pets at Home, or you go into Jolly's or whatever the case might be, that's your prerogative and your whatever, but you are going to annihilate tens of thousands of independent pet shops.
Well, I see my personal thing is that, and this is what I say to people, I think you can get away with getting into Pets at Home and Jolly's as a brand, but don't go into grocery. Don't go into Tesco's, don't go into B&M, don't go into the range, because there's still people who work in the corporate stores. like whether or not you like their overall brand or not, who really care about pets. That's not the case in Tesco. There's no one in Tesco. Look, and IAMS made this mistake. If you went back to when IAMS controlled the kibble market in the pet stores, and they decided to go into grocery, and it just annihilated their business because there was no one in the supermarket saying to them, look, that's £15 a kilo, that's £3 a kilo. Why am I paying 5 times the price for this? That doesn't make any sense. I'm just going to buy the £3 a kilo. Whereas if you are in Pets at Home or Jollies or whatever, and look, I know it's changing because they're more and more like geared towards doing their own brand. So if you're in Pets at Home, you've got Wainwright's, and it's kind of their own brands, but they're kind of hiding it. Like Pets Corner do the same. I mean, the amount of actual external brands they've got on the shelf becomes less and less all the time. I still think that the people who work in the store, there's as a percentage is still there's still people there who really care about animals.
I agree.
And so I think as a brand, you can go into a corporate or two, but for me, going into grocery is a massive no-no.
Yeah, but I would go very niche. I would have a very niche product. If I was going into Pets at Home, I would try to make my product as niche as possible because you aren't competing against Wainwright's. You aren't competing with, Jolly's Life Stage or whatever, because they're just going to chuck you to the side, and it doesn't make economical sense for them to promote your product.
And look, one thing Canagan have done right is they won't go into those companies. I mean, it's for me like. I remember Simply when it first came out, I think it was, they used to actually like exclude people like based on radius. I think so if you sold Simply, the guy down the road couldn't sell it and they wouldn't sell it to any corporates. And
it's genius, right? And I'm not affiliated with Canagan. We do sell Canagan, that sort of thing. But they actively spend marketing pounds telling people to shop local and independent, and as a result, independent pet shops do the marketing for Canagan. They don't have to spend as much money on advertising, on pay-per-click or whatever the case might be, because we just sell the product for them, and that is really. And why are more companies doing that? I don't understand.
Yeah, and because you can point to loads over the years. So James Wellbeller, for example, I mean, they were like what Canagan is now. Like they were in every single store. They used to give us tons of samples. So if you could, like back in early 2000s, if you like, let's say had a Vital account and you were buying James Wellbelow, they would have a line where you could actually order an entire box of samples free of charge, and it would just come with your wholesaler delivery. But then it was bought out by Mars Pet Care, or Royal Canin, which is Mars, and then it was in Supplier, and then they pulled out the wholesalers initially, and you had to buy it off them, and then you could buy it cheaper off of Zooplus, and you could buy it from your wholesaler. It just ruined the whole brand.
What a business model that is, right? As much as I don't like it, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. The big three have an incredible business model, and it has to be studied and praised from a business standpoint. It's incredible.
Yeah, well, their ability to
vertically integrate with vets, with, writing literature. It's incredible. It's insane.
It's funny because I actually looked into like the prescription diet market, because I was like thinking, well, how hard would it be to create your own prescription diet? But the actual clinical trials make it completely prohibitive for a small company, like just the sheer cost behind it, even though, a lot of it's just active ingredients, which you should, like if you were to copy it like for like, it will do the same thing. But they put lots of barriers in the way to stop you from being able to do it, to actually bring down those costs.
An actual moat, they protect themselves.
It's a big financial moat.
Exactly. Yeah. Like any good company. Whereas a lot of these other companies, they just don't have that ability. They don't have that. So yeah.
So if you were like, let's say I'm a pet brand, and I'm like, I've just come up with a dog food, and I think it's a bit saucy, a bit sexy, and I'm like, yeah, Sam, I reckon the pet quarter, you should be all over that. But what would you like? What would you be looking for out of me?
So I've actually gone back to my team and said, hey, what do sales reps say, and what should they not say when they come in store? And I've got a few points here. The first one is, don't screw us over. Try not to F people over. And that's very, very important. Like, don't tell us you're not going to pursue pets at home, or that you won't sell on Amazon, and then go and pursue those avenues. Don't blatantly lie to us. Because if you think about it, right, we are independent, and a lot of the pet stores are owned by the people who work there full time. They have kids. That is their lives. That's their livelihoods. And if you're trying to tinker with that, they are going to rebel, and they're not going to like it. So don't tell us you're very strict when people undercut SRPs online and then do nothing about it. For example, if your price is £50 and then you can buy it on Amazon for 45 or 35 or 25, I'm going to get miffed.
Well, it's interesting because in this country, it's always been an issue. I mean, I sell in the US, and MAP pricing is really common. So the minimum advertised price, and I would MAP price everyone that I dealt with under the threat that you go under MAP, we pull. And you have to do that. Like in America, that's a real common thing. Over here, it's sort of like the only company I really remember making you, it was ALF. They used to make you, if they had certain products, it was like, you cannot sell this online. You have to sign this agreement that you won't sell it online, and that you sell for, you don't play with the price, so that, and I think it's so important. You have to keep price integrity. When I was a kid in Belgium, so we had my parents used to own a grooming salon, we used to sell raw canning. And my dad, obviously, we had a pet store in England, and he had a bit of a thing where he would sell things a bit cheaper, do people a deal. And Raw Canning came around and said, you put your retail prices up, or we're pulling your sales through. And I think it's important because the problem is once you've paid £40 for a £50 product, you don't want to pay £50 anymore. No. And it destroys the whole meaning of the ecosystem. So no, I totally get that. And I do think that as an independent, and this is the other thing, is that the reason why Golden Acres had so much of, you've seen their food, it's like some paw print bag with a sticker slapped on it saying the pet quarter dog food. Yeah. Looks garbage. People look at it and think it just looks.
We don't sell it.
Yeah, no, but it looks like crap anyway.
Yeah, it does.
But I understand why people sell it.
Yes.
Because they're so scared that I buy that brand in.
Correct.
That brand is just going to sell online cheaper.
Yep.
It's going to go into Amazon. It's going to first chance it gets is going into Zooplus.
Listen, the only thing that an independent pet shop wants is for customers to return to the store.
Yeah.
That is it. By any means, that's the only thing we want.
Yeah.
We want people to return to us and for us to make a living, sort of thing. That's it.
Yeah. Go on, next point.
The second one should be know your numbers. If you come into the store or send us an email and you get overexcited about what you're selling, but you either don't know your gross margins or it's simply not competitive, and then it might never land with us. So you have to know your numbers. Don't just come in and praise the food or praise the toys or whatever if you don't know your margins, if you don't know any further discounts. What can you do for us, as it were? Are your products different? Are they unique? Can I buy these in Pets at Home or whatever? We try to choose products that are off the beaten path and that people can't buy on Amazon,
Well, for the reason we just said, 'cause it makes sense, because obviously the moment they can buy it down the road, you've lost the customer potentially.
Also, we always have thousands of pounds available for the right deals. So if you have discounts for big orders, tell us, because we are always, pulling that wad of cash from the mattress, from under the mattress. So if you have any deals and any further discounts, we are always willing to spend. And this is something we tell everyone. And people come back and we spend tens of thousands of pounds with them, per order. So yeah.
Yeah. Do you I was always conflicted about this, right? This whole idea that if you give me a nice tasty order, I'll give you a cracking deal.
Yeah.
And I was always conflicted about that. And the reason I was conflicted is because, and this might be this, I've got a bit of a soft center. And it's always the fact that I want everybody to compete on a level playing field as much as I can.
Yeah.
And just because you have the ability to buy a shit ton of stuff, I mean, there's obviously got to be a minimum order, which makes sense. But I also want the guy who's working out of a small store, like serving his community, to be able to compete with you on a level playing field. So I was always really conflicted about, do I go out and offer like a cracking deal to someone because they're going to spend a ton of money with me? Or do I say, you know what? No, like I want everybody to make the same money on this.
Fair point.
And I do get it, because like from a store's perspective, if I can buy, you know, a product which would have cost me 50p for 35p and I'm still going to sell it for £1,
yep.
Like, I'm not stupid. You know, I want to make more money. But I always thought from a distributor's point of view, I was always, if I can sell it for 35p, I'd rather sell it to everyone for 35p or everyone for 40p or wherever the midpoint needs to be. I don't want to penalize people. So that was always a big thing. I mean, I know it's probably doesn't make the best business sense, but it was always...
Well, listen, it's an ethos. And if you adhere to that ethos, then go with it by all means. As long as there's you know what you stand for, then that's cool. Yeah,
I mean, that was mine just because, like, ethically, I was like, I want people to... I mean, look, there was certain things I play with the price on a little bit. So it's things I wasn't exclusive on. So things like Nature Diet, it's a commodity market, or like, you know, Fourth Glade, it was a commodity market. If you're not buying it off of me, then you might be buying it off of, like, you know, so if you're a pedigree customer and they've got like a £2,000 a week band and it's making it much cheaper, then I'll compete with that just because, look, if you're not buying it off of me, but you're buying it off of them. But for things which I was relatively exclusive on, I wouldn't give discounts just because I would be,
You seem like a tough businessman.
No. Soft businessman. That's what it is.
So it depends.
Yeah.
But if you do have an offer, do let us know, because we might be willing to spend more money.
But look, I mean, that's what companies have. Like at the end of the day, look, I've also done work for companies that they'll have like all different weird bandings, and they'll let their sales rep know what they can physically go up to at the absolute push. So you should always ask. You should always ask where the prices can land.
Yeah, absolutely. The following point would be to know your stuff and to make sure the staff know the product inside and out. So we do train our staff on nutrition, and we're very particular when it comes to nutrition. But a lot of sales reps don't really understand the product, or they come from other industries and they don't understand pets. They don't know anything about cats, or they don't know anything about dogs. And it's a bit like, okay, so you're trying to sell a dog product or a cat product, and you don't actually know anything about the industry. So, and it happens more than you think.
Happens all the time.
People just don't know the product.
Yeah.
And I'm like, right, okay. And they don't know the other products that they're competing with.
Yeah. No, look, I've seen it so many times where somebody's gone, oh, I was in the brewing industry before. And and they're just like absolutely clueless. And or like I remember I had this guy who used to work for shall I say the name? Armitage. And this was going back a long time. And he was from the finance industry. Yeah. And you remember him came to me, and he, like, I used to buy chalk drops, sand sheets, that sort of stuff off of him. Yeah. And I said, you know, you just go, well, what deals are on at the moment? You know, that sort of stuff. What can you do us? And he'd be like, don't talk about that. He said, what you want to do is you want to buy, I'm doing squeaky vegetables at the moment. If you buy a pallet of squeaky vegetables, I'm like, what are you on about? Do you know? And you're like, oh, no, anyone can sell chalk drops and sand sheets. You want to be selling, like, it's like, what are you on about? You get these people and they're just like, they're salespeople. They haven't got a clue what they're selling. They don't know what the sell through is going to be like. They don't understand why it would sell. They understand who you're selling it to. It's all just numbers to them, and they're just pumped up and trying to get, they obviously had a bigger commission rate on squeaky toys or something.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And so he's just like trying to ram squeaky toys down. What are you on about? You know?
Yeah, it happens all the time.
But I also feel the same way about how companies employ their head people. There's some big companies who are integral to the industry, who bring people out of other industries. And the pet industry is not like selling furniture. Yeah. It's not like selling, you know.
It's not a straight P&L.
No.
It isn't.
No. And I think it stops us from advancing, because they're just looking at margins. They're looking at like data, dog food's a bit more complicated than data.
Yeah,
you know, it's like if you went round your shop and there's plenty of products I'd imagine you've got in your store, which you might only sell once or twice a year.
Yeah.
But you have to have it.
Yeah.
But if you were going, well, I'm just going to sell the stuff that sells, and all this bottom 30% that goes.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to get another 30% of products in.
Yeah.
Because it hits my margin quota. Well, your shop's going to look like a load of it's not going to serve the community.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
And so, having the right people who actually come in is real important.
Understanding the customer is very important.
Yeah.
And in their case, the customer is us.
Yeah.
So understanding how we think is really important. And it has to be said that the industry of independent pet shops, we have a lot of unsophisticated people, for lack of a better word. I mean, oh my God. Brenda, who posts on Facebook, about the local pet shop and support your independent pet shop and all that stuff. Like, it drives me mad because it's not like customer related. They don't focus on the customer's problems, which is the dogs and the people around them. But yeah, that's something that has to be said. You are selling into a bunch of unsophisticated people sometimes, unless you go into your pet corners or whatever.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting.
And the last point would be sell good products only. And this is very subjective, but and I think with the YouTube channel, and a lot of people don't sell to us because they know where we stand. But if you are selling like pet food with sugar in it, or cereals or whatever the case might be, I would encourage people not to buy them. If you're an independent pet shop and you're watching this, try not to sell things with sugar. That would be important. Don't sell any cat food or any dog food with sugar. It's not a maybe. It's a definitely no. In my opinion. We actually started a petition to ban sugar in pet food, and we got nowhere because the industry doesn't want us to succeed. But yeah, we wrote to our local MP and we started a petition, and we got nowhere. Yeah. So yeah, sell good products. Try to do good for the industry.
I think the problem is I think there's a lot of people out there who think that because people will ask for something, that they have to have it. And look, to give you an insight, so in the 80s, like when my parents had the shop, we were one of the first people to sell Nature Diet because we used to buy from the company before, which was a frozen meat company. And when they created Nature Diet, we were one of the first people. And one of the things we used to do is because at that time, the market leader was Pedigree Chum. But the problem is people wanted Pedigree Chum because they weren't aware Nature Diet was a thing. They didn't know the quality difference. So we used to sell Pedigree Chum, but we used to intentionally have a small amount and sell it cheaper than anyone else. And then we'd have a massive stack of Nature Diet next to it. And then when people used to come in and buy Pedigree Chum, I'd go, why are you buying that? Like, we don't really sell that much. We're cheap on it, but no one really buys it. And they're like, huh? So we sell loads of this. And then we just give them a free packet of Nature Diet. So just see the difference. You'll open the cans and you'll just be shocked. But it's that question is, do you have it in there as a prop to say, don't buy this? Or do you just not have it in there at all?
We have the same idea. We have a naughty shelf in all our branches, and we just tell people, hey, ask us why we don't stock any of these foods or any of these treats or any of these whatever. And we just tell people, we will say, hey, this is not good for your dog. This is not good for your cat. We don't sell it. We are highly against it, and buy this instead. And it works for us. It really does work for us. And I wish more people did it, especially some of the mid to large players in the industry. If they stop selling some of these products that are so prevalent everywhere, I think the health of dogs and cats would be a lot better.
Yeah.
Which is why you should get in the industry in the first place. If you get in the industry in the first place, you have to like dogs and cats and want the best for them. Otherwise, what is the point? Why are you getting into the industry if you're selling sugary treats?
Yeah.
or cereal-based foods, it makes no sense.
And this is, look, I think this is one of the reasons why I like the pet industry, because I do think that people on our level, on the ground level, who've always dealt with people, who put ourselves out there, we do genuinely care. And I think this is the thing, is this is why people who are, let's say, industry lovers or like animal lovers, they should be the people in the industry, because that's what that's what matters.
What's better than dogs?
Yeah.
What is better than dogs?
No. I adore dogs, man. I'm like
I see my dog every day, and I get more excited than he does every single day. And I love my cat. I just love them. I love every single dog that comes into our branches.
No, look, that's what makes being in the trade great. Like, if you're in a pet shop, like, what other job can you do and stroke dogs all day and fuss dogs? Like, there's nothing else. I mean, I worked during COVID. I worked for the NHS on the I was on the COVID wards.
Fun job. Fun job.
Yeah. Well, I was. I'm a bit of a lunatic. I was like more interested in what was going on than anything else. But just working with normal people and it's like terrible. It's so boring. Exactly. I mean, normal people suck. It's like I love being in the pet industry because everyone's mad. Everyone's obsessed with animals. Yeah. I love doing shows because I can just have these wild conversations about dogs or I love reptile shows. Reptile shows, you have the more craziest conversations with reptile people. Reptile people you think dog people are crazy. Reptile people are like a nice little notch up. Yeah. But I love it. But that's what it's all about. And that's why I do what I do and why I've always been in the trade. It's not, you certainly don't come into it for the money. You come into it for the love, So it is frustrating when you've got people who are selling garbage and look for stores,
How hard is it to read ingredients on the back of pet food bags? How hard is it?
Well, but again, it's knowing the reference points, isn't it? Like, if you just read one load of ingredients and you had no reference points, how do you know what's good or bad?
Well, sugar is pretty straightforward, isn't it? Like, we can debate whether apples are good or bad in pet food, but sugar or cereals in cat food?
Yeah.
Am I crazy?
I mean, cereals in cat food is pretty wild, actually, when you think about it.
Right?
I mean, because they're predators. They're absolute carnivores.
The number one most recommended dog food in the United Kingdom contains sugar.
Really?
Yes, it does. So, and it's recommended by vets every single day, up and down the country. And people want to debate with me about sugar. I don't get it. I honestly do not get it.
But what is the debate? I mean, what debate can you possibly have?
Well, the debate is the food is more palatable with sugar in it, and that's why they sell it.
Yeah, give it a Mars bar then.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? It's kind of because that's the thing is, look, we're not. The difference with the pet trade and, let's say, human food is I'm currently drinking a can of Monster, which I know objectively is terrible for me. But, that's fine. But if I had a baby, I wouldn't be feeding it Monster.
Yeah.
And pets are our babies.
Yeah.
And we want to do what's right for them and we want to feed what's right for them. So nobody's going to convince you that, you've got a year-old baby. Here you go, just pour some Monster into its bottle and feed it on that. It's a lovely rush, if nothing else, You're not going to do that. So why would people objectively worry about... Because look, palatability is all about what you get used to. Yeah. If you never had Frosties before, you'd be happy with a bowl of cornflakes. Yeah. And dog food's the same. If you're on, it's a bit like I always said to people who had cats. I said, don't start off on Felix, because once it has Felix or Whiskers for a bit, you're going to struggle to get it onto something which is good quality because it's going to have the stuff in it that makes it highly palatable, and it's not going to want to eat it as much. But if you start off by feeding your animal on what's good rather than what's on the tastiest,
So that's, for example, one of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to the YouTube channel, and our mission is to tell people to not feed those foods or to educate people on how to feed their pets better. But if you're a company and you are stuck in any of these products, how about don't sell those products? Don't buy them in, buy something else, buy something that's better, let alone the dogs and cats will be better, but you'll probably have a better reputation.
Yeah. But also, I think when you actually, and this is again the beauty of independent stores, is because you have relationships with your customers, you can actually talk through things with them.
100%.
And look, if you're in pet specialty as a consumer, you give a shit. This is what I always say, is that the people who are grocery customers, and I don't think it's that they don't care, but they're not as motivated. So I think Marina's store, she gets an abnormal amount of grocery customers in because she's in the petrol station. But she's even in that situation, people aren't looking for the cheapest thing. It's just they've become accustomed to buying the cheapest thing because grocery leads you down a path of low information choice. And so once you actually have a little bit more choice, you don't buy the stuff which you would have done under them circumstances. So you don't, by giving people information, which you can in the pet store, why would you ever sell any of that garbage ever again, to be honest?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. We don't stock the products. We don't recommend the products. We get very angry about those types of products. I do. It riles me up like no man's business. The sugar in pet food, the cereals in pet food, the high amount of carbohydrates in pet food. I'm having none of it, and sometimes the industry wants to innovate or whatever, and they put one of these things and it drives me, crazy. Yeah. It drives me insane. And we save pet parents hundreds of pounds every time we get people through our branches or on our online consultations, because what we say works, and it's not really complicated. If you stop eating McDonald's when you're diabetic, maybe you're going to get better without knowing anything about hepatic glucokinase or anything like that. We can get technical if you want, but if you feed your dog better, your dog is not going to go to the vet as often.
Yeah. No, but it's the same with us, right? If you're, I don't know if you saw Super Size Me, the film, the dude just eating McDonald's all day, every day.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's how you're going to live, you're going to get ill quicker, whereas if you're eating, good quality whole foods, and you're not. So it's a pretty simple thing when you actually put it to people, but it's just getting people actually to understand it. Yeah.
But people love going to the vet and taking, or to the local GP and getting paracetamols and antibiotics and courses of steroids, and you get into this loop and you never get out of the loop. Once you're there, you're there.
So here's a question for you. As I'm obviously, I'm going to put my wholesaler hat on, and do you think that the pet industry is keeping up with the right products? Because what I've learned from doing this podcast is that there's so many really good products out there which are really poorly distributed, and that the big wholesalers aren't doing enough to actually get the right products in front of people.
Why do you think that is?
Why do I think?
Yeah.
Why is it not happening?
Yeah.
Because they're employing people from other industries who don't really get it. That's my opinion.
Okay.
But I could be wrong. But I think that the problem is, so for example, is products need to be distributed centrally, in my opinion. Because your average pet store, their turnover is not mega. And so dealing with 20, 30, 40 different companies, it's not viable from a pet store's perspective. Which means you have to use a wholesaler. But the problem with the wholesalers are, a lot of them don't want to sell. They don't want to put any time into selling anything as it's not their own brand. So so if you're Pedigree Wholesale and you're talking shampoo, they'll sell you Tropiclean because that's their own sort of distributorship. Nothing else. They won't talk about any other options. But then what ends up happening is that they're just promoting their own stuff, and then everything else is just sort of there waiting to happen if they bother to stock it at all. And so I think the problem is that I think we're letting down people who care, is my opinion, because there's not enough good brands being put into these wholesalers. I know some people's stuff has, 𝐃𝐈𝐒𝐂𝐋𝐀𝐈𝐌𝐿 is in with Pedigree Wholesale, which is great, but Vital don't do it, and like Best Pets don't do it, and I know she's going into Subridge soon, but there's still loads more they can do, and they're so slow to react. I mean, what made me successful as a wholesaler was the speed of reaction.
Yep.
Like when I saw new stuff out in the market, I wanted to sell it because people were buying their wild bird, their peanuts, their pig's ears, and all that sort of stuff off me anyway. So for me to bring new products on and go, have you seen this? It would keep my customers nice and fresh and they wouldn't have to buy a huge amount or buy direct, because buying direct, it's problematic just generally. Like, I mean, I don't know how you feel about buying direct, but
we are happy buying direct. Yeah. If you are a small company and you can get into a wholesaler, you then have to be different and you have to market yourself differently.
Yeah.
And that is maybe through TikTok. Maybe, I don't know, you make funny videos. I don't know, so I know about you.
But the problem is, though, is that what ends up happening with these products is they end up trying, because they can't get in through the wholesaler networks, they haven't got the resources to go visit, 1,000 stores because it's not economic, for one.
Right.
Then they end up becoming D2C companies.
Yeah.
Which I don't like. I think, if you're a pet product manufacturer, I want you in pet stores. I want the pet store to understand why they sell it. I want them to give that information to the customer. I want that ecosystem to exist. And I think it's too expensive for companies. Like, look, I worked out that for every call a rep makes costs the company about £55 to £60 per call. That's a lot of money.
I've heard this about you, and this is incredible. But that you'd rather have companies send free product than have sales reps. Yeah. That is a wild idea. Say that again for
So my opinion is it's cheaper and more effective
Listen to this.
to send free products to every store than it is to send a rep in.
And I think I agree with you.
Yeah. Because then you can use the product, you can gauge it, and your success rate will be higher. I think with reps,
you don't remember them.
No.
Tony came in. Who?
Yeah.
Whereas if you got the product, you got the product.
Yeah. Even when one of the things I used to do when I used to rep is I would always have a free product with me. So even if they didn't have time to see me, and I'd just go, look, I'd put my prices on the top and I'd put a free product on. It was usually my training treats or something like that. Yeah. And I'd just leave that. But then they've got the training treats. What are they going to do? They're going to give it to their dog. Yeah. And then they're going to go, these are actually great. Yeah. I love these for X, Y. And then they're looking at what you're doing. And then you get sales. And you can do that through post. Yeah. I don't need to turn up to do that. That was my fail safe originally. Was like, if the right person's not there, or they're a bit distracted, or they don't want to give you the time of day, that was my fail safe. But actually it works better. If I was, I don't know, whoever, I'd just send you a free product. Say, use this. What do you think? This is the MOQ.
And if I sell it, I'm going to buy more. Yeah. I'm totally going to buy more. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's a great idea. It's a great idea. I heard it and I was like, it's genius. So why aren't more companies doing it?
It's everyone follows each other though, right?
Yeah. But I mean, if you're a small company and you can't get through selling is hard. Can we just agree on that? Yeah. Selling is really, really hard. Extremely hard. The hardest thing ever, right? Yeah. And you get rejected all the time and you knock on doors and people tell you to do one. It is what it is. Yeah. So once you've overcome that, then you have to pursue it if you really want to get your product into the market. If you have a good product and you want to get it into the market, then you have to push through. That's just the way it is. Yeah. Look, the way life is.
Look, imagine. I mean, you got to bear in mind, when I started out, I was up against some real big boy wholesalers. Yeah. I was expensive. I didn't have much range. And I remember I went to one shop and this was early days when we were just trying to build our way into the market, and the guy was like, "Tell your governor you tried, all right, son." And just or people would hide out the back, not want to see me, or they're just look at you and go. But most of them customers I got in the end because I worked on what I was doing. worked on the products, worked on how I delivered stuff to them.
So if you come and see us 25 times, do you not think I'm going to buy something?
Eventually you will.
Eventually I will.
Yeah, eventually
you
will.
know, no means not right now.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't have the funds. Maybe, I don't know.
But do you know what it is that half the time you're just not like, you know, I might come and see you and you're happy, you love all your suppliers and your shelves are full, you got nowhere to put anything and you're just like, eh. But I'll give you one example actually of one I got into, and I went and saw this shop a few times and they would just like be like, we're super busy, we're happy, we love all our suppliers, we don't really want another supplier. And you're like, oh, that's cool. Then I got into the shop around the corner from them, and I used to have like this like loose packed hay, which I used to sell tons of, and they started selling my loose packed hay. And then suddenly, when I went in there, the next time they were like, "You sell that loose packed hay, didn't you?" I'm like, "Yeah." Oh, well, actually, we'd love to sell that.
Yeah.
And then they made an order up, and that shop actually was the shop around the corner was a terrible shop. It went bankrupt like a year later, but getting into them got me into these guys, and they were like one of my biggest customers. But I must have visited them 10 times.
Yeah, 100%.
Before I even got a sniff. But you have to. It's like there's consistency. It's like,
well, that's your job. If you're a sales rep, that's your job, is to go and knock on doors and talk to people and get rejected and buy coffees and, you know.
Yeah.
That's the job.
Yeah, you just bang it. I mean, like, I only used to get out on the Fridays because I used to run the warehouse Monday to Thursday. So it was like, and it was always frustrating, like because again, I employed a rep for a short period of time. But they got me no work, and then as soon as they left, they took all the work with them. And
another point, I think social media for small brands is a lifesaver.
Yeah.
You can literally put out content for free every single day, and just have an audience. And you know, if I come into contact with that content, I'm going to consume it, and then I'm in the algorithm, as it were.
But your content has to be useful.
Yeah.
That's the thing about your content, is it's useful to people. I think what a lot of people think when it comes to social media is just putting a picture up of someone's dog wagging its butt in the shop.
That's not marketing. Yeah, that's not how you do it. No.
But you'd be shocked how many social media marketing companies, that's what they do for these companies.
Yeah.
And it's like there has to be purpose behind everything you do. You have to, like, if you're selling and you're selling in a knowledge-heavy industry like we're in,
yeah,
you have to be looking to try and educate, even if they don't buy off of you.
Yeah.
You have to be like saying, look, this is...
But let's say we're selling tennis balls, right, for dogs. A very, very basic product. If I just create content around merchandising for a store, and the best way to place tennis balls in a store and to upsell the customer and to make more money around merchandising and putting the product in the right way, then that's useful content for me anyway. And you don't have to sell me anything. Hey, I've released this video about upselling. Just watch it, and I'll watch it.
But good selling is not about selling. It's about education, and it's about showing, and it's about So, for example, like the mealworm growing kits, I used to sell. Used to do it in America, and it would always be about, I'm not trying to sell you it. I'm just going to show you how it works. And I just show people how it works. And you'd get a crowd of people around you and people would buy it because you're not, and it'd be like, oh, I don't have a use for mealworms. That's no worries. I'll still show you, and like, it's about like just showing people what things can do and like educating people. And then they go and say, oh, I saw this mealworm growing kit. You can grow your own mealworms much as you want. Like it's a continuous cycle. And you go, yeah, like, and you've got somebody they know that like has a kid who wants to learn, or they've got like a gecko and they live in some remote part of the US where they're struggling to get them delivered. And you never know where that's going to land long term, but it's just should always be about just showing people a better way of doing things and giving them that option. Because the big problem with disrupting, and I know like you were saying that like every product that comes out, they say they're disrupting the industry and it's the same fucking shit. And it is the same fucking shit a lot of the time. But the problem is with real disruption, like real category disruption, is no one's looking for it. So like, for example, I'll give the example of Joe's Genus Probiotics. Fantastic product. absolute lifesaver, I think, for loads of people. Can really do some great stuff. But no one's looking for a probiotic. No one's cleaning the floor and saying, you know what I need? I need good bacteria on that floor to kill the bacteria. They're just thinking, I want to burn the shit out of this floor until it feels clean. And that's the problem. Like, with being truly innovative, is the amount of work that goes into that is huge to actually get people to change their mindset, to get people on board. Because even that, I mean, like, that stuff, it's like so obvious when you think about it. Good bacteria floods bad bacteria. You get all the natural great properties of good bacteria, and you don't get all that chemical shit everywhere. But the problem is that people mentally, they've had, you know, a whole lifetime of watching the Flash woman going across the floor and going...
Well, I mean, let me tell you something. If you have a small company and you can't sell right now, the next 24 months are going to get a lot tougher. So you better wake up and smell the coffee, because things are going to get really saucy very, very quickly. So get on the phone, son. You know, bring some independence and do something, because things are going to get tough.
But also, people have got to learn to do more with less. And I think this is the problem with...
Story of my life.
Well,
Listen, when you're constrained and you don't have PE funds, and when when you're self-made, you are very, very conscious that the downside is bankruptcy, and that is the downside. And that's my ethos. I have to make money, otherwise I go bankrupt. I don't have rich parents behind me. I started from zero.
No, and that's the thing, is that you have to get used to actually working with like, I mean, we built a warehouse, a 4 million a year business up out of a warehouse behind the pet shop, and moved it twice to cope with the size. But we were always shitting our pants every time we bought a product that didn't sell. Overcommitted to different products. And then you think, bollocks, I've got this up my arse now for the next 2 or 3 years. I mean, we bought a container of beds from China and it lasts us 5 years, and we're just like, oh my God. But these are the real problems you have when you're actually playing with your own money, as opposed to, I just got like a £500,000 investment, let's just go nuts, you know? And like, when you look at doing shows, you're thinking, what will this return me, really? As opposed to, I've just got to be everywhere. I'm going to have like a big stand with like a big thing flying around in the air, and it's going to look fantastic.
Anyone can do that.
No.
Anyone can do that. It's like they're lauded as geniuses. Anyone can do it with a lot of money. Like, it makes no sense. And people are there commenting, "Oh, like, so amazing, good luck." And I'm like, you could do it as well, Like,
I remember it was. So like there was one company, it was a small animal food company, and it was one of the last Glees before Pats became a thing, and they had all these bunny girls, and they spent fortunes on this stand, absolute fortunes, and it returned them absolutely nothing, because it was just so over the top. They had all these people, like girls dressed up in these bunny outfits, running like promoting this food, and like I think within 3 years they'd lost like a load of their market share. Because just the rabbit food industry like was continuously in a point of change at that point, and they had like a muesli based diet, and then extruded became a bigger thing. Like but anyone can throw huge amounts of money at things, but what you're actually looking for is what's your return on investment. I don't think people focus on that enough.
Like, they don't focus on it at all. like it's not even a consideration. If it were, they wouldn't be making the decisions that they're making.
So Sam, what products are you really excited about in your store? Just out of interest, like, you're on the ground seeing people every day.
I like simple things. I give my dog the simplest things ever. So I like to give my dog a bone every now and then, a manageable bone. Yaks, those are very natural. They work. I love to give my dog treats, like 100% meat-based treats, and feed him a good diet. I don't overcomplicate things, I buy him all the toys in the world, because obviously he has to have all the toys in the world.
Don't talk to me about
he's
toys.
He's such a good boy, let me tell you.
I've got so many toys. I've got like a stack of toys.
I've got like...
One of my dogs is just like toy mad. We have like a stack of toys. It's like coming up past the chair now at this point.
But I keep it simple, I keep it very, very simple with my dog and my cat, and we have it like that, because that's what works. Sometimes the stuff that works isn't sexy, but it's what works,
Yeah.
But yeah, we try to stock products, and we try to, and if you're listening and you have a product that is unique, like, do hit us up, because we look at it. We try to buy things in that you can't really find anywhere else, or you would find in a store like us.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
None of that generic from China stuff, nothing like that. It drives me mad.
So if you're a Chinese company that specializes in dog toys and harnesses, like, leave me alone.
No, and if you have those products and they're good, I've bought from China. I buy from China, big bulk orders. But if the food is not good, or if the treats aren't good, I'm not going to buy them in. The wrappy chicken with the cereals and the sugar. I'm never ever stocking that. Well, never.
It's the glycerin, isn't it? They use glycerin on it, and that's what makes it bendy.
Yeah.
So they're glycerin, and it's all.
And it's translucent as well.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's kind of weird looking, right? It does. Yeah. I mean, because I used to get chicken breast dried in Poland as well, and it just looks nothing like that Chinese stuff. To be honest, it just looks nothing like it at all. So you also do like markets, and you get out there, and do you organize that stuff for the public as well? Yeah,
so Christmas markets, we do our fair share, and that's really important for a lot of independent retailers. You do have to make ends meet sometimes, or maybe if you just want to go for more, Christmas is the perfect time to hit the road and try to make as much money as possible. So what I do every single year, and I've been doing it for quite a few years, is I set a budget and I just buy stuff for Christmas markets, and then I tell my staff, hey, we've done 28 Christmas markets on top of like having the shops behind and the online delivery. So yeah, it works for us. It's really good, but you do have to put a lot of hours behind it.
And look, I think also, if you've got really good products, so this is, probably heard me talk about this before, but like I used to do crufts every year with a customer of mine.
Yeah.
To get new products out into the market, because if you've got good products, you're always looking for a new way to get in front of people.
Yep.
And like something like a Christmas market, there's people in a Christmas market who'd buy a pet product who wouldn't necessarily think about going to a pet store. So it's just trying to move yourself into different locations. Like I said, like with Marina and the pet shop in the petrol station, you're getting people going into a pet shop who would have never thought to go in a pet shop before, but because they're there, they buy something different, and you're selling better quality products, you're selling different stuff, you're selling stuff that really can change an animal's life, but because you've moved it into a different location, you're picking up a different client. So
and if you're doing like grassroots things as well, little talks or whatever, if you have a new product, or you're like a consultant or nutritionist or whatever, then like coordinating with your local pet shop could be a very good idea, because that's extra knowledge, and people are down for that sort of stuff. You have to be different in the industry,
but you have to bring more awareness and more knowledge, and like show people through products. I mean, like I said, it's like we said about sending somebody a free product. If your product really stands up on its merits, if you actually get that in hand and you use it, you'll buy it, because it will stand up on its own merits. If what you're selling is generic crap, then it doesn't matter what you do with it. You're having to force it down people's throats, or pay for marketing, or pay for like meterage in a corporate or something like that, So if your product is really genuinely good, you can take it out, and it's just about getting it out, showing it to people. Look, when I brought over chicken feet first, it was like, I knew it was a great product, but like people weren't selling that. It was all about, shank bones and knuckle bones and paddywhack and things like that. But you get it into crafts, you stick it out, you sell it out. Suddenly everyone's like, where the hell do I get more of these from? So that's the beauty of finding products that are genuinely good.
So products sell themselves.
Yeah. So it's just about, I like the fact that you're out there like doing, getting into different locations, because things like Christmas markets are great. And
you have to, you have to. It sets you up for the rest of the year.
And also, getting nutrition people behind you, setting up meetings and talking to people. Just anything you can do that's different.
I also wanted to touch upon the different complete and balanced foods there are available in the market, right? So let's just take the raw feeding cohort, right?
Yeah.
So I raw feed my dog, and I'm a big advocate for raw feeding dogs. But you don't have to if you don't want to. I'm not sanguine about it. Whatever. Do whatever you want. How is it possible that you can buy an 80-10-10 without veg, and that is complete and balanced? At the same time, you can buy an 85% with 15% veg. That's also complete and balanced, and that's also okay. You can buy different other brands with 15% bone content. Others are 20% bone content. And these are all complete and balanced. There is no standard. There is no, this is the optimal nutrition for a dog. So a lot of in my opinion, the regulators need to come in and say, what is the adequate carbohydrate amount in a dog food or in a kibble? Yeah. Is it 20%? Is it 40%? Is it 75%? Whatever the standard is, we should all try to adhere to the same sort of standard. Otherwise, it's the Wild West. And again, I'm a raw feeder, but that side of the market is the Wild West. You have 50-50. So 50% meat, 50% vegetables, complete and balanced. And it's approved by everyone, and it has all the accolades and everything. How is that even possible? I don't understand it.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah.
How is it all adequate for a dog? How is 5% bone adequate, and how is it 25% bone adequate?
Yeah, because it makes no sense. And I think I think the problem is that for me is like, I see how long I can hold it for. While my brain gets into gear on this. I think the problem is that the guidelines look, I think this is the same problem as we have in other industries like dog trainers. There's no proper accreditation for that. There's no, like, this is a problem where I feel like there's a Wild West effect on this because nobody's laying down or showing proper studies on what is actually correct. And there needs to be some kind of centralized agreement on this. I think people are working towards actually having nutritionist groups which are actually certified. I think that's happening.
I think I disagree with that.
Yeah.
Because again, with dog and cat nutritionists, right? How is it possible that we have vegan dog nutritionists, right? And they are at the most upper echelon of all the accolades and everything. And then you have raw feeding vets at the top of the tree. And then you have kibble vets at the top of the tree. You have three completely different opinions and facts, and they're in the right.
Yeah.
They're all right. Are they all right?
You wouldn't have thought so, would you?
Right. So I don't really, and again, I'm not neither left nor right. I'm very, very open-minded, but everything is fine. Raw feeding vets are fine, and they're fine, and raw feeding vegan vets and kibble vets, and there's no like.
I mean, the thing is that studies are coming out showing, like.
Don't get me started on studies.
Go on, like, I'm getting you started.
Right, so pet food studies, right? You have cohort studies, which is the most prevalent one in pet food in the pet food industry, which is where I indoctrinate you in a particular credos, and I say, well, you're a vegan, and I'm going to feed your dog a vegan dog food, and you are already subscribed to veganism, and then I'm not even going to monitor the dog. And a lot of the vegan studies I've read, the dogs actually eat raw meaty bones, right? And you can fact check me on this, and you can get back on me because I've read the studies and I know what I'm talking about. And a lot of these studies are then promoted or lauded as the gold standard in vegan pet foods. So that's cohort data. If you want to do something properly in the pet food industry, there should be a lot more like human randomized controlled trials where you randomize everything. When you aren't. When you give placebo to certain dogs, where everything is a lot more controlled, where companies don't meddle or sponsor too many studies. That's how proper science is conducted. Not, I'm gonna choose a cohort of people who are like raw feeders. Everything is fine. I'm not going to monitor them, and then I'm going to base their opinions on observational data.
Yeah,
that makes no sense, and that's the majority of pet food studies, by the way. Kibble, raw feeding trials, and vegan pet food as well. They all do it. They all rely on cohort data. It's not randomized.
Yeah,
the vast majority.
Yeah, like, which is totally ridiculous. It's like totally unscientific, right? I mean, like, if you did that with anything else, mind you, I know pharmaceutical companies have been known to play with trials and that sort of stuff, but it's kind of, yeah, like you think that there would be standards behind this.
There aren't. No. I've read all the studies. I've read meta studies. I read all the time, and we laugh at them. To be fair,
Yeah. Well, that's got to be your mission, Sam. You got to like bring standards to the to nutrition.
Imagine.
I
just think that the regulators have been sequestered by big companies.
Yeah,
and they can't do anything about it. It's not their fault. It's just the way life works sometimes, and you just have to work around it. And whatever all these big companies want is what goes.
Well, a bit like one girl I know who's the vet nurse. She said that like Domino's bring Royal Canin bring, or like one of them brings in Domino's pizzas for all the staff and the vets, and they're just completely captured.
Well, there were a few freedom of information requests by the University of Liverpool, Edinburgh, and a couple more around the UK. And a lot of these companies are sponsoring and actively giving money to veterinary schools and writing literature. So what do you think a vet is then going to promote and is going to recommend? Especially if you go into certain groups, and again, I'm not going to name names because I don't want to get sued, where I applied to be one of the franchisees and I wasn't able to sell any other products aside from the products that they were already selling. So they have a contractual obligation to sell certain products. It's a very good moat from a business standpoint, but
yeah, it's completely against the ethos of why we do things, right?
Yeah.
It's, if we're here saying we need to care about our animals and give them what's best, and look, there's always economic factors which stop us from giving as good as we'd like, but it shouldn't be like bullshit.
So yeah, there's a lot of dark spots that I don't really agree with, and I don't really know what to do or if anything is ever going to get done. And that's one of the things that I think, the lack of this is good, this is bad, this is okay, this is not okay. At the moment, everything is okay. In fact, everything is amazing. Everything is hypoallergenic. Everything is natural. Everything is the best.
But do you know what?
How can everything be the best? They're completely different products. Different nutritional profiles. Different ingredients, and they're all the best, and they're both hypoallergenic, they're both natural.
But
okay.
Hypoallergenic is one of the biggest bullshit terms.
Well, yeah, the term hypoallergenic has never been defined. That's why a lot of these companies put sugar in hypoallergenic without naming the brand.
Because it's delicious. It's delicious.
It's beautiful.
Okay, so we're going to follow this up in another episode because this has been wild. But thanks a million for coming in, Sam. Anyone wants to get hold of you, best way to do it?
Dog and Cat Nutrition on YouTube. info@thepetquarter.co.uk if you are selling your products, or come and visit us in Stokesley or Yarm up in the northeast. The northeast is the place to be.
Awesome. Thanks a million, dudes.
Thank you.